All right, everybody, welcome to the webinar. Hang in there a little while longer as we let more people get in. We're going to get started very soon. Please make sure that your audio is working. And make sure that you put away any distractions if at all possible. Close your door, turn off your phone, that sort of thing. Make sure you're ready to devote your full attention to this webinar because we're going to share some really amazing information that could be very, very important to your financial future. So get ready. Make sure that you won't be interrupted anytime soon. This webinar will be about 60 minutes long, so get ready because it's starting right now.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Tim and I'm here with my dad.
Hi everyone, I'm Tom. Welcome to our webinar today.
And in this webinar, we're going to cover our 5-step blueprint to how to trade like a Wall Street pro. So grab your popcorn because you're going to get a lot of value from it if you stay until the end. Now, before we jump into our presentation, I want to talk a little bit about our disclaimers first. More importantly, this is not get rich quick. If you're looking to make $1 million overnight, I'm sorry, this presentation is not for you. We're an educational company, just as if you were to go learn at college, and you actually have to put in the work and time to learn how to become successful at trading. And if you are, then perfect, you're in the right spot. Now, I would hate to waste anyone's time, so I want to talk about who this webinar is for exactly. If you've never heard of stocks before, you've never traded before, totally fine, you're in the right spot. Or maybe you have. You've watched YouTube videos, you've read tons of books, but there's so much information out there you don't know where to start. Perfect. And maybe you have been trading successfully for a while now, but you haven't been able to break past the $5,000 to $10,000 per month mark. And maybe you don't even want to trade. You just want to invest in your 401k, your IRA to grow your nest egg. Maybe you have money with a financial advisor who's losing you money or is charging you high fees that you don't even know about. Our strategies can help all of these people. Now you might be wondering, why should you listen to us, two people behind a camera? And so I want to talk a little bit about our trading backgrounds. My dad has been trading for over 20 years now. And in May of 2019, he did a 30-day trading challenge. And in 30 days, with just $5,000 worth of buying power, he was able to make $103,000 in profit. And more recently, in 2020, my dad was one of the first to catch on to the effects of Corona on the markets. And so because of that, he was able to get close to around 100% return on his account in just 22 trading days. And he started with about $50,000 and turned it into over $98,000. Now, to be upfront with you, he doesn't do this well every month, but he is able to make a very comfortable living consistently, and these types of months can happen a couple or even a few times a year. And as you can see for yourself, for each of these months where he did make a killing, the stock market was actually going down. And whenever the market starts dipping, Tom just starts licking his lips because for him, he sees it as easy money and even more opportunity. And not only have we been able to do this, but we also have a bunch of successful students who have been able to do the same thing as well. We have Janoy here making $27,000, Steven with $60,000, Danny with around $17,000, Joy with $3,000, Edith with $167,000, and as you can see, there's a bunch more. Now, you'll have plenty of time to see them all later in detail, but for the sake of time right now, we have to move on to the rest of the presentation here. We're going to cover a few important things with you. First is, how do professional Wall Street traders make so much more money than the average trader? We're also going to show you how you can make anywhere from $200 up to $2,000 per day consistently from the markets. And we're also going to talk about our strategy and how it's universal. So whether or not you want to do this full-time, part-time, or just to manage your 401k and IRA, our strategy works for all of that. And it took my dad over 10 years to become a profitable trader. He spent a little over $100,000 traveling the country to learn from the best professional trading schools, from Wall Street professionals, from trading gurus. And he even spent over $30,000 on trading software to give him buy signals, sell signals. And all of these things essentially failed him. None of them gave him a complete step-by-step system to actually make money consistently in the markets. And you're not going to see any Lamborghinis or Ferraris or mansions here. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's great to have those goals. But we're real traders. We love trading. And I'm here right now in my dad's office. This is his trading setup. And he does this day in, day out and makes money. And he's just been doing it very privately. And it didn't really occur to us to start this until we had friends and family who were losing money in the markets, and they've reached out to us. And so after helping them get back on track to make money in the markets consistently, it's now grown to something much bigger than what we expected before. My goal of this web class is to teach you the only way to trade correctly. And that's based on Wall Street's methods. We're not trying to beat Wall Street. We're just trying to join them. And before I dive into our 5-step blueprint, I want to talk a little bit more about my background, as well as my dad here is going to speak on his background as well, so you can see how he learned a lot of these methods. Now, before we jump into our 5-step blueprint, we want to introduce ourselves. I'm Timothy Long. I started Stock Navigators with my dad, Tom, and he taught me how to become a successful trader. And he also gave me the courage to pursue what I wanted in life. I felt like I was programmed my entire life to just do well in school so that I could get into a good college, go to college so that I could get a good job, and then get a good job, and then what? I went to UCLA and I got a degree in economics. And guess what? I never even used my degree. I got a taste of the corporate world when I worked on Wall Street for a summer. And although it wasn't the worst thing in the world, it really opened my eyes up to a new reality. Was I really going to put on a suit and then go sit in an hour of traffic every single morning to go work for someone else? I knew that I couldn't do this the rest of my life personally. And I'll admit, I was pretty lucky because when I was in college, trading really took off for my dad. And when I saw it, I couldn't resist. So I took a risk and I went home that summer to learn trading from him instead of going to work on Wall Street again. And it took me 3 full months to learn trading, but it definitely had its ups and downs. There are times where I wanted to quit and times where I wanted to give up, but I pushed through. And when things finally clicked, my eyes were opened to a brand new reality. However, the biggest thing I learned that summer was that it was never about the money. I would have made 6 figures right out of college working on Wall Street, but then I would have become a slave to society. And I figured if I could make the same amount working for myself, why would I even need to go work for someone else? But that's enough about me. I'm sure right now you're probably wondering how my dad created all of this. So I'm going to let my dad take over from here as he's the one that created this opportunity for us.
First, I want to explain how this all started. When I was 13 years old, the communists took over South Vietnam, and my father was taken away from me. They put him in prison because he was a South Vietnamese fighter pilot. They took away our house and everything we owned. I thought my life was over. 7 years went by, and I grew up quickly. And then my dad was released from the prison. I wanted to get out of Vietnam and live freely, not in fear. My dad and I planned to escape Vietnam. We built a small 9-meter long boat and packed up as much food and water as we could and sailed up in the middle of the night. I went through many violent storms, tornadoes, and chased by pirates to survive. After 6 days and 6 nights, we saw land. We later found out this land was Indonesia. We were taken to the refugee camp. We were there until we got sponsored to the United States. I arrived in San Francisco with nothing, no money, no English. My dream is to become an engineer. I work and study at the same time, got my degree, and got a job as an electrical system design engineer. I got married to my beautiful wife, Thủy, and have 2 wonderful kids. I achieved what I have pictured as the American dream. After working for 8 years, I decided to open my own business. It helped me make good money. All the money that I made, I gave it to my financial advisor. But when the year 2000 hit, the market crashed out of nowhere. When I asked my financial advisor, are you sure we shouldn't adjust our position? He told me, don't worry. What's go down will always come back up. But the market continued to rob and rob. To tell you the truth, I lost over $1 million. What I learned was I should not trust anyone else to control my money. This forced me to learn deeper into the financial markets. Up until this point, I have been trading stocks here and there. I started to learn trading from anything I could get my hand on. I spent over $100,000 on education courses and software, trying to find out a strategy that worked, learning from all the gurus and the Wall Street professionals. But no one was able to teach me a complete strategy so that I could make money consistently. I couldn't find any magic indicator or software that would help me know when to buy and when to sell. But with my background as a system design engineer, I was able to put together all the tips, tricks, and the strategy into one system that works by using 5 key components. These 5 components help me make money consistently. Learning how to trade completely changed my life. It gives me freedom to spend time with my family, go on vacation anytime I want, and not stress about money. Eventually, I passed on this skill to my son Timothy, who has been successfully trading for years now. While my son and I have always been close, this experience has allowed us to bond on even a deeper level. This experience helped me discover my love for teaching. Soon I was having friends over for dinner. We show them how to trade as well. More people want to learn this strategy than I have time to teach. We opened our in-person trading school in Silicon Valley, which was a huge success. Not long after, we launched our new online program to reach even more people. And that's when things really took off. Now, I'm going to have Tim take over again, go through the 5 steps that we put together to help you to become a successful trader.
Thanks for sharing your story, Dad. Now, before we start, I want to jump into the guidelines for today. This is not get rich quick. If you're looking to make money and become a millionaire overnight, I'm sorry, but this webinar is not for you. It's not as simple as a click of a button just to make money. Now, don't get me wrong. Trading, you are clicking buttons, but to get to that point where you know what you're doing, you have to put in the upfront work to learn how to properly do it. In addition, this presentation is not for anyone who only wants to copy our trades and doesn't want to learn how to actually trade for themselves so that they can do it on their own. If you're interested in following trades along, you can look on our website at our watch list. But this program here is for people who are willing to learn, wanting to put in the work so that they can make money whenever they want on their terms. And you have to be able to follow step-by-step instructions that we show you to get to that point. And you have to be extremely disciplined, motivated, and ready to make a change in your life. And we're looking for people who are like Danny. Danny knew absolutely nothing about stocks. He was a real estate agent for about 20 years before he came to us, and he was looking for a new career change. He was getting a bit tired of real estate and he wanted something where he could do from home. And so he reached out to us. He took our program, and within 7 weeks, he made $16,000. And last time that we checked with him, he was averaging about $1,500 to $1,800 per day in profits. Danny put in a lot of work. We saw him spend 7 weeks nonstop learning our materials, communicating with us in our chat room every single day. So who crushes it with our method? We've seen that many of our students have a stable job and they've been working for at least 7 years plus. And they come to us because they're tired of their current profession, or maybe they've hit a ceiling. They don't want to commute anymore to work, but they're also very motivated. They're willing to put in the work. They're not afraid to do it. And they're ready to commit to a new change and a new career in their life. Now, if you're motivated and ready to make a change and you've been interested in trading for a while now, but you don't know how to get started, maybe you've tried trading already by watching YouTube videos and reading books, but you can't figure out how to make it work. Or even if you've had on and off successes in the market, but you're not consistent, or recently you've been getting crushed, you have small wins, but big losses. And for people who even have money with financial advisors who are either losing them money or are charging them outrageous fees, probably fees that you don't even know about, then our program can help you reach your financial goals. Now, what is this Wall Street you always hear of? Well, Wall Street consists of the biggest banks, institutions, and the most successful traders in the world. And they control hundreds of millions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in the markets, and they dictate what happens. So what makes Wall Street so different from people like us who are retail traders? Wall Street traders have knowledge that we don't have. And a very famous billionaire Wall Street trader, Paul Tudor Jones,
He says that intellectual capital will always trump financial capital. And what he means by this is that people have an information advantage. It matters less about how much money you start with and more so about the knowledge of how to grow it correctly. And while before this knowledge was kept secret to many people on the outside who weren't inside of Wall Street, my dad has been able to learn from them, figure it out for himself, and condense it into this program that's easily understood by people like you and me. Trading is important because it allows you to take control of your finances and your future. Because when you allow someone else to control your finances, it puts you at risk. And I can tell you right now, nobody else cares more about your money than you do.
Okay, so why is now the time to get started? And this is one of the most important slides that we have in the presentation. So if you've been spacing out or falling asleep, you should probably start paying attention now. So earlier, I talked about how my dad turned $5,000 in trading power into over $100,000, which is around a 20 times return in just a month. And then I also talked about how he turned around $50,000 into $98,000 in another month. Now, both of these times were during significant market corrections. And then, following the correction, with the markets down just over 30%, he called the bottom and rode it all the way back up, green on 5 out of 5 of his swing trades. And for example, we want to show you TTD, the trade desk, and he bought this at $170, down right around here, and he rode it all the way up to $233 and sold it less than a couple of months later for around $6,300 in profits. That's a 37% gain. And again, this was just in a couple of months. Here, I want to talk about Roku, another one of his trades that he bought recently, and he bought Roku at around $68, and he is still holding it at $112. So his current profits for this is over $4,400. And guys, 68 to 112 is around a 64% gain. Or even Tesla, which he bought at around $380, and he sold it at $746, which is a gain of over $36,000. That's a 96.4% gain. And again, this is in less than a couple of months. So how is he able to do all of this? Well, the answer is simple, really. Increased volatility. Now, what that means is that the markets had a lot more activity, moving in big and fast swings, big days up and big days down. And let me tell you, right this very second, has there never been a better time to trade the markets? Because we're seeing market volatility like we've never seen before in history. Big red days, big green days, and it's even crazier than in 2008. And I'm sure you've seen the markets for yourselves. Maybe some of you were panicking as you took a 30% loss or more. I know a lot of my friends did personally. And I'm sure some of you also caught the periods of recovery as well. But let me tell you, this is just the start. And all signals point to the fact that volatility and market activity will remain high for at least the next 6 to 12 months. So if you feel like you've already missed the big moves, I can assure you, you're not too late. And we'll explain more throughout the presentation how you can still do well and take advantage of these opportunities, like Tom or some of the other people that we've shown you. And at the very least, you can avoid the big losses that a lot of people are taking as well. Okay, so now that we know that there's super high volatility in the markets, that's unprecedented, what else? Well, right now, America is going through a one-of-a-kind change that we've never seen before. And everyone is adjusting to this new reality, this new state of the world that we have to live in. And with a lot of uncertainty and a lot less security for people in the long run, we've never seen unemployment numbers like this before. 10%, 15%, and some experts say soon as many as 25% of Americans unemployed. That's insane. Layoffs, pay cuts, tons of small and medium-sized businesses are shutting down for good, not to mention the amount of money the government is printing, billions and billions of dollars, potentially even trillions of dollars to keep the country from collapsing. So while this does help us in the short term, what it does in the long term is create inflation, or even something called hyperinflation, which according to many experts, where the total amount of money increases dramatically, and therefore, as a result, decreases the value of your current savings, paychecks, and cash. Yes, that means your money that you're holding right now will be worth significantly less in the future, and you'll be able to buy less items with it. So the price of everyday items that you purchase, such as food, clothes, rent, you name it, all of a sudden your $5 coffee now becomes $6, $7, and eventually $10, $15 or higher for that same cup of coffee. And that's the byproduct of the government printing so much money. So if your money is just sitting in the bank, safe, quote unquote, in your savings, it isn't really safe. Same thing as if you have just cash on hand. So really, not holding cash is not really safe. Putting it in the bank is not really safe unless you're actually doing something with it, which is what we recommend, investing in things such as real estate or the stock market. And if you don't know the first thing about investing, don't worry, because we have you covered. And the rest of this presentation should clear up things for you because my dad has landed on something really powerful here with his method. And I think you're going to find it really useful as well. So if we could boil down all the changes that are happening to just one word, I think uncertainty would be pretty accurate. And for those of you who have been laid off or are trying to cope with the fact that we don't know what's going to happen, or if there's going to be periods without work, we don't know if Corona will keep coming back and causing problems, or if another pandemic will hit, if machines will soon start taking our jobs, or any of these other countless things that can put us in a vulnerable position. And if that's how you're feeling, we get it. It's scary. It's a time that we've never seen before. But that's even more the reason why you should pay attention to what we're about to show you, because trading is pandemic proof. It's recession proof. And you can do it from the comfort of your home on your own time. You can do it full time. You can do it part time for just supplemental income. You can even do it more passively just to grow your savings and retirement accounts. You name it. And that's why my dad and I love it so much. And we want to share it with more people, especially at a time like this when it's needed more than ever. Because now that many of you have more time on your hands, you might as well learn a new skill that will serve you for the decades to come.
The problem with having money in mutual funds, and most financial advisors won't tell you this, is that mutual funds are legally not allowed to make money when the markets come down. So when the markets do crash, half or even more of your money is at risk. But what most people don't know is that some of the best opportunities come from when the markets are coming down. And we're going to show you how this works in a live demo in a few minutes. Now, what if it was possible to identify these crashes before they got bad? These are actually opportunities in disguise so that instead of sitting there and losing half of your money, you could actually make big gains from it. The strategies and methods that we're about to show you is not just for daily or weekly income. It's also to help people manage their 401ks and their IRAs as well. So why should you focus your efforts on managing your own savings? The EBRI Retirement Security Projection Model projects that 40% of people from the ages of 35 to 64 years old will run out of money in retirement. And as a group, they will fall short about $3.8 trillion. According to Fidelity, couples will need $285,000 more for healthcare costs during their retirement. Plus, employers are contributing less and less to retirement plans nowadays as well. Now, let me ask you a question. How much savings do you have? A lot of people don't think it's a big deal, but these are the people that are unprepared and get hit out of nowhere. And the reason why is because life expectancy has increased by 7 years per person over the last 30 years. If life expectancy continues to grow at this rate, then the average person is going to need an extra $300,000 in savings by the time they retire. Combine that with inflation, in 30 years, your money is only going to be worth 40% of what it is today. And the bottom line is, we're in a retirement crisis. So if we don't do something about this right now and take control of our finances, we may find ourselves never ever being able to retire. But here's the good news. If you're watching this currently, then you're still early enough to do something about it. As long as you start now, it's not too late to make a change. So what is the secret method? I want to introduce you to Jonathan, who's one of our partners, and he's going to be walking you through our 5-step blueprint on how we trade like Wall Street. Jonathan, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Well, hello. As Tim said, my name is Jonathan Van Kloot. I'm the Director of Education for Stock Navigators. I've been trading for a little under 20 years now, and I trade stocks, options, futures, and crypto. And I met Tom completely by accident. I just went to a local traders group presentation and happened to sit next to him. I didn't know him. He didn't know me, but we got to talking. And after the presentation, he asked for my contact information. So I gave him my email address and just kind of forgot about it. A couple months later, I got a random email from someone I didn't know, and I almost deleted it thinking it was spam. But something said I should open it up and read it first, so I did, and it was from someone named Tim, and saying something about I met his dad recently, and something about some trading method they wanted to talk to me about or something. I wasn't really clear on what exactly it was about, but I eventually figured out this must be the son of that guy I met at the trader meeting. So it turned out they were local, so I went ahead and went down just a few miles away and sat down with them. And Tim started explaining to me kind of how they trade in sort of general high-level terms. And I really didn't believe him at first. It was really too good to be true, and it just didn't sound like it was possible. But then Tom started explaining more detail, and I knew that, okay, there's something here. These guys know what they're talking about. So I better just listen and put aside my objections and my initial reactions. And when Tom started showing me his actual results from trading, that was when I was completely blown away. I had never seen anything like it. I had never even thought it was possible to trade with the kind of results that he does. So at that point, I knew I had to be a part of this, and I very quickly jumped at the opportunity to get involved as a partner in the company. I have a background in training and content development, so I became the director of education for Stock Navigators, and my primary role is to extract all of these brilliant trading ideas and strategies and methods out of Tom's head and get them down into black and white onto something that we can actually use to teach anyone who's willing to put in the work. So with that out of the way, let me go ahead and jump into explaining our 5-step blueprint for how we trade like a Wall Street professional and how you can too. Wall Street really does trade and do things very differently. And one of the first places that Wall Street starts, and any trader should start, is with reading charts. So let me actually jump into my charting platform real quick and give you a brief rundown on how charts work. So this is a chart of Facebook. I'm sure you're familiar with them. And this is a daily chart. You can see it says daily in the background here. What that means is that each one of these green and red things here is 1 day's activity in the market. Now, red days means the market was down, and green days means that price went up for that day. And you can see prices are on the right-hand side. So it's 160 down here at the low and $204.66 up at the top. And time goes along the bottom. So you can see all the different days and months along the bottom. That's always the way we read charts. It's always time along the bottom and price along the right side. Now, you can also see lots of different time frames depending on what kind of information you want to look for, whether you're day trading or longer term trading, investing. Depending on what you're doing, you can see all manner of different time frames and know what to look at in the charts during that time frame. So one of the first and most important concepts that you need to understand when it comes to trading is trends. And it's pretty easy to just sort of eyeball these prices and see whether they're going up or going down. Okay, you can see clearly during this section here, prices were falling, right? You can see that they were getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And during this section here, prices were clearly rising. This is an uptrend. Prices are going higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And it's not hard to see that. It doesn't require any kind of special analysis or anything. Anybody can kind of look at a chart in general and say, well, is it going up or is it going down? But the fact is that there are some specific ways that we actually measure the movements in a trend to define whether they are an uptrend or a downtrend. And it's really important that you understand this. These are really basic principles that are the foundation of everything that we do in trading. So let me jump over to my whiteboard here and show you a quick illustration of what I'm talking about. So this here on the left is an uptrend. You can see here that prices were heading higher. And this on the right is a downtrend and prices are heading lower. And so what we have here is on the left-hand side, we have a series of higher highs. So this high here is higher than this high here. But then we also have a series of higher lows. This low here is higher than this low here. So the market moves to a high and then a higher low and then a higher high and a higher low and then a higher high, etc. So an uptrend is said to be a series of higher highs and higher lows. A downtrend, of course, is exactly the opposite. We have a series of lower highs. So this high here is lower than this high here, and a series of lower lows. This low here is lower than this low here. So we have the lower low, the lower high, the lower low, the lower high, and then it continues and so forth. So it is a series of lower lows and lower highs. These are the textbook definitions of an uptrend and a downtrend. Now, this comes from something from the 1800s called Dow theory. And the overarching thing that you want to make sure to take away from this is that when a trend is heading up, it is most likely to continue heading up. And when a trend is heading down, it's most likely to continue heading down. You could also think of it as Newton's law of if an object is in motion, it tends to stay in motion. There's also a saying in trading, you might even have heard it before, that the trend is your friend until it ends. Well, that's what this is referring to, is that when a trend is moving a particular direction, up or down, you want to stick with the trend until it shows you that it's over. The problem is, if you just try to use this to trade, you'll end up losing a ton of money. It will not work out well for you. So let me actually show you on a real chart kind of what we're talking about here is this is a chart of the S&P 500 the ES specifically. This is the futures market, and this is the market. When you hear people in the news and things like that talking about the market, this is usually what they're talking about. It's the S&P 500. It's the biggest companies, Apple, Amazon, Google, all those companies. They're generally in the S&P 500. So it's very, very big companies. And you can see here this is 2018 here. All of this is 2018. And if you remember the markets at all for that period of time, they've been just going higher and higher and higher. And you can see here with your naked eyes, you don't need any special analysis tools to see that prices are just going higher and higher and higher. And if you really want to analyze it, you can see that they are higher highs, higher low, and a higher high, and a higher low, and a higher high, and a higher low, etc. So this is the classic definition of an uptrend. But then something happened. Right? What caused all of this over here? Well, there was a reversal that happened and a pullback, a very, very major correction. But the fact is that we knew about this. We knew that this was probably coming with a very high probability before it happened. And here's how we knew that. If this is the only thing that you remember, that you memorize from this presentation, please do, because this could literally save your entire life savings if it's invested in the markets, because this will happen over and over again. We had market, again, higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher low. And then all of a sudden, something very important happened right here. At this level right here, something critical occurred. If you look closely, you can see that this high here is just a tiny bit lower than this high here. So what this did was fail to make a higher high. Now, a healthy uptrend will continue to make higher highs and higher lows as long as it's healthy. When it fails to make a higher high, something's maybe not quite right. Now, by itself, that is not a big warning sign saying, oh my gosh, get out, sell everything. Not by itself. But it puts you on notice. It says, okay, watch out. Start watching very closely to see what's going on, because this market failed to go higher. And if the previous higher low right here, if this gets broken, then we know that the trend is done. This is that part where we say until the trend ends. Then that shows you that the trend is over. Now there's going to be a correction to the downside. Now, it doesn't tell us by itself how far that correction is going to go. We have other methods for doing that. But it does tell us we're going to want to be very, very cautious at this level and probably take any profits that we have off the table. Now, the other thing you can do is, if you know how to trade, if you are trained and you understand this, that you can actually make serious money when the market is going down. And the way we do that is actually by selling up here and buying back somewhere down lower, somewhere, anywhere really down here. So you sell first and buy later. And this is called going short. This is how you make money when the market is falling. And this is usually the fastest money. You can see how long it took for price to go up this high, and look how fast it came crashing back down again. Markets always fall faster than they go up. So if you had known to watch out for this, as we did, and as we cautioned a number of our students right up in here, we cautioned them to beware if this level is broken. If you had gone short, as it's called, at, say, not even crazy, not even up at the very top. Let's say you just got short at this number here, 2,900. And let's say that the market fell. And then as it started coming back up here, when you saw this start to happen, maybe you decide, you know what, that's good enough for me. I'm getting out. And you get out at, say, this 2,800 level. Well, from 2,900 to 2,800, that's 100, right? But these are not dollars. These are points. What that means is every 1 point that this market moves, your money is multiplied by 50. So every single point it moves, you make $50 if it moves in your direction, or you lose $50 if it moves against your direction. What that means is that if you caught a 100-point move from there to here, and you traded just 1 or 2 contracts, that's a $5,000 to $10,000 gain. Now, this specific example doesn't happen every day, but when you're watching for it, and especially once you start trading with more contracts, you can make a lot of money. So now let me talk to you a bit about another very important concept in trading that we use in our trading toolkit. And we call this the cycle of 3. And basically what this is, let me actually go back to my whiteboard here. And this is the idea that these movements here that you see here, these uptrends and downtrends, they move in cycles. These markets move in specific cycles. And what we have here is a wave 1, a wave 2, and a wave 3. And the same thing to the downside, 1, 2, and 3. And these are what help us to tell if we are at the beginning, the middle, or the end of a trend. We're able to identify this first wave here, and we know that that's the beginning of the trend. And you'll almost always see it then pull back a bit. And then the gold standard here, the thing we really aim for, is catching this big middle wave. It tends to be the big one, this second wave. And this is the one we want to catch. We want to take as much of a bite out of the middle of this trend move as we can. And then we have to watch out, because here on this last wave up, we know that this is for the people who are too late to the party, and everybody is jumping at the last minute, but this is the end of the trend. And you have to be really careful, because at any moment it could break going higher and start heading to the downside. And the same thing plays out in reverse on the downward trend moves. We have the first wave down, and then the second one here, this big one. This is the one that we really want to try to catch as much of as possible. And we got to be really careful on this last move down, because again, it could reverse to the upside at any moment. And we are able to identify these different waves and determine whether we should get in or get out. So now let me switch gears to another tool in our toolkit that is extremely useful when combined with everything we were just talking about. And that's called the pullback and extension theory. And basically, this is the theory that any stock or anything else is eventually going to pull back. And these pullbacks here might seem kind of random and arbitrary, but they're actually not. They're very predictable. And this is really important, because so many people struggle with this. They struggle with knowing when to buy. Is this a good price? We hear this all the time. You also hear all the time that you should buy the dip, buy the dip. Well, how do you know when the dip is done dipping? How do you know if it's done here or it's done here or it's done here? You're buying and it just keeps moving against you, moving against you. How did you know that was the point it was going to finish? Well, the fact is, this is exactly where the pullback theory comes into play, because the market is usually going to pull back a certain percentage. Now, it doesn't just do this anywhere. It has to be under the right circumstances. But once you've learned to identify them, you'll see that it happens quite often and very predictably. It tends to pull back into the area around 61.8% of the previous move. So this works in uptrends and downtrends. But rather than just keep showing you on the whiteboard, let me actually switch over to live charts and show you some charts where I have found that these setups occurred. Now, here is one example. And what we have here is 3 points, 1, 2, 3. And those points here pulled back to a very specific level. And then from there, we were able to measure the distance that the next move up might go. And that looks something like this. If I use my tools here and I do this measurement here, we can see that the 61.8% level is right here, right at this yellow line. And in this case, it pulled back pretty much perfectly right to it, right to that 61.8% level. But now there's a second measurement we can do, which is to measure how far is price going to extend to the upside. So we have another tool we can use, and we can measure that extension. And so this is the second half of our pullback and extend method. And here we have the 161.8% level. And these are such important levels because all the big banks and institutions on Wall Street, those traders use these levels very, very heavily. And because they use them, we want to use them as well. So let's say you identified the area down around 61.8 and saw it turning around. If you bought in around $28 and you wrote it up to around the 161.8 extension at $33, in this example, you'd have earned a healthy 18% return in less than a couple weeks. So if you have a smaller account and traded with $5,000 here, you'd have made about $900. Or with a slightly bigger account, you could have traded $15,000 and made around $2,700 profit. Let me show you another example where this was setting up correctly for this technique. Here we have an example of the first point, the second point, and the third point, and then where the extension level was somewhere up here. So again, if I go grab my tools here, do a quick measurement from there to there and see, sure enough, we knew that right around here was the level where it was probably going to prove that it was done dipping, done pulling back. And in this case, it actually gave us two opportunities right around that level to get in. And then we can use our second tool to measure the approximate distance that it is likely to go from here. So we know where a good profit target is. So again, if you had bought after identifying the turning point at about $18.70 and wrote it up to around the 161.8 extension at $19, you'd have made about a 1.5% return within 24 hours. So on a small trade like this, a beginner might only make 100 or 200 bucks, but it's the type of thing that you see happen every day, sometimes even multiple times in the same day. Let's take a look at one more chart that was setting up in the right place for this technique. And again, here we have our first point, our second point, our third point, and then we project from there. So let's go ahead and grab our tools, do some measurements, and see what we get. We end up with, there's our 61.8 level. That's what we were looking for the pullback to finish, and it did that and then showed us it wanted to head higher, at which point we can use our second tool again and measure the possible distance that it might head higher to get a potential profit target. And there we go. All of this here. We had several opportunities here to get out, grab our money, take it off the table, and then the market took off in the other direction. So if you had gotten in right around 132 and gotten out up towards the 161.8 extension at just over 133.50, that's well over a 1% return in just 2 days. Again, a nice quick winner for 100 or 200 bucks trading a smaller account. You're not always going to get those $5,000 or $10,000 wins since they're a little less frequent, but it's more about being consistent with these little trades that really adds up over time. Now let's talk about buying and selling where the institutions buy and sell. One of the most powerful concepts we use to trade is called buy and sell zones. Let me first explain something to you on the whiteboard that's really important about this part of our strategy. Now, what causes the price of a stock to move up or down? Well, when these big players on Wall Street buy millions or billions of dollars worth of shares, it forces the price to head up. The same thing happens when Wall Street sells a ton of shares. It forces the price to move down. So because we're able to pinpoint these turning points in the market where Wall Street wants to buy and wants to sell, it opens up opportunities for us to know where price might go next and take a slice of their pie. So how do we pinpoint these areas? Well, when price has made a previous low and then it comes back to that low again a second time in the future, we know that Wall Street traders are waiting and ready to buy anytime price gets down to that level again. The same thing applies in the opposite direction. When you have a previous high and price gets back up there again a second time, we know that Wall Street is waiting up at that level to sell. Now, we could talk all day about exactly why people are buying and selling at these particular levels, and it's largely psychology based. But because we're short on time in this video, I'm going to just stick to the most important stuff, which is showing you exactly how it works. Now, price doesn't have to go all the way to the top or bottom of a particular zone once it enters that area. Instead, once it does enter this general zone, it can turn around at any moment and reverse. The key is knowing how big these zones are and how to calculate that because they're different for every single case. Now, let me actually show you some of this on live charts. So here we have a chart of Tesla. And if you follow Tesla at all, you probably remember back in August of 2018, something very interesting happened right here. Elon Musk tweeted out to the world that he was going to be taking Tesla private. And what that means, if you don't know, is that he was going to be basically just buy back all the shares from everybody who currently owned them. And he promised to buy them back at something like $420 per share. And you may notice that down here, price was between $340 and $360. That means he was promising to pay a huge premium in price, that anybody holding the shares that bought anything below there had free money just waiting for them that he was going to give them. So a huge number of people piled into Tesla and started buying like crazy, because if you bought Tesla, say at $380 a share here, and he's going to pay you $420 a share, well, that's $40 per share, just free money. So why would you not just keep buying it all the way up to $420? But a funny thing happened. Notice here, where did it get to? It got to $390 or so dollars per share. Why didn't it get to 420? Shouldn't it have gotten to wherever he promised? What happened here? In fact, right after that, you can see Tesla started to fall and fall and fall. Why would that occur? Well, the fact is that no matter what Elon said, there were sellers waiting up at around that $380 level. And we knew that that was the case because we looked to the left and we saw a sell zone right here. And if we go back, you'll see when price got right back up into that sell zone, exactly what took place. And it didn't matter that Elon was promising $420 a share. It absolutely didn't matter because we knew that the institutions were sitting up there waiting to sell. and nothing was going to overcome that. Now, if we go a little bit further in time, you may also remember back in September of 2018, another interesting thing happened. Elon Musk decided to go on a certain podcast and for whatever reason thought that would be a good time to apparently try marijuana for the first time. And of course, this was plastered all over YouTube and all over the media. And generally speaking, everybody started to freak out and people started calling for the end of Tesla and Elon has lost his mind and he's crazy and this company is going to go into the toilet, etc. You should sell it, get out as fast as you can. Well, what happened after that? Tesla actually went up. Well, why would that happen? Well, the fact is, if we look to the left, that was at around $260 a share or so. If we look to the left, what do we see but a buy zone right here? If I draw the levels for you right there. Now, if I come back, you'll see it went right into that buy zone right there. And we knew the institutions were sitting there at this level. They wanted to be a buyer and nothing was going to overcome that. That's just all there was to it. The institutions wanted to buy Tesla at that level. If you had copied them by selling inside the sell zone at around 380, which is a very reasonable entry point for this strategy, and bought back at the top of the buy zone at just over 260, you'd have made just over a 45% return on that trade in about a month. So if you had put in just $5,000, that would have been around a $2,300 gain. After that, Tesla bounced higher. And then all of a sudden, something really bad happened and it just tanked all the way back down into the zone again. This was where, if you recall, the SEC came out and decided, Elon, you are a bad boy and we are going to fine you for this tweet that you sent out. Promising everybody that you would pay them $420 a share, and we're going to remove you from the board of directors and all this kind of stuff. And so this is extremely bad news for Tesla, right? Everybody starts calling for the absolute death of Tesla, that they are done. This company is going to zero. They're never going to recover from this. In reality, though, we knew that this was the institutions buying like crazy, acquiring every share they could possibly get their hands on and hoping that people would sell their shares, that people would dump them at this point. And a lot of people did. In fact, a lot of people who bought up here on Elon's promise, unfortunately, sold out down here. And if we move to the right, we can see what happened after that. Price bounced up higher. Even though it was incredibly bad news to most people, price went higher. Now, where do you think price might have gone to? Well, if you said to the sell zone, you win. Price went right to the sell zone and just kissed it. So again, if you put that same $5,000 investment here, you'd make another $2,300. These types of trades happen back to back very frequently. So even if you can't put $20,000, $30,000, or $50,000 into each trade, you can still make good money. So after Tesla touched the sell zone, it came back down. And now there's another very important concept to understand about these zones, which is that the more times a zone is touched, the more times a zone is tested, the weaker the zone actually gets, and it will eventually break. And this was the point where Tesla could not hang on anymore, and price finally fell below the zone. And down it went until it stopped falling and started coming back up. And where do you think it came back up to? You said back up into that same zone again. Congratulations, you win. So now to wrap things up, let me tell you a little about sort of our secret sauce. This is really what kind of tips things over the edge for a lot of our students because it's just so beginner friendly. I'd even go so far as to say that this is pretty much essential for any trader, regardless of the strategy that you used. Let me show you the whiteboard here. Have you ever had this happen? Have you ever been faked out of a trade where, maybe you buy here on the way up and you're all excited and it's looking good. And the next thing you know, market pulls back and takes you out. And you just decide, I better get out of the way. It's going down. I was wrong. And you get out. And next thing you know, it takes off and you missed the big move. That ever happened to you? Well, it's something that happens to everybody at some point. And there are ways that you can do things about it. Now, at Stock Navigators, we're not huge fans of lots of complex tools and indicators and things like that. Most of what you really need to be able to trade can be seen right on the price chart itself. But this particular tool, our secret sauce, is one of the few things that we use ourselves and absolutely stand behind. Let me actually show you what I'm talking about here. Looking at, for example, this chart of the S&P 500. Here's a perfect example of what you can see what I'm talking about here. You get in maybe here, you buy, and next thing you know, the market goes against you, and maybe you get out. And then the market moves up, and what the heck? And so you get in again, and then the market goes against you and takes you out. And then this keeps happening over and over again. And you keep getting faked out because the market is very noisy. You can see it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. It's all over the place. Well, if you use this special tool, which is mostly only used by professionals, look what it does for you. This is what I'm talking about here over on the right side here. We've got a traditional candlestick chart here, and you can see how noisy and wiggly it is. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. It's very, very hard to know that it's safe to stay in this move. It's hard to sit through that. But here's that same move using this special kind of chart. And as you can see, green, 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 green. There is no reason whatsoever to be worried or get out. You just get in and stay in all the way up until it shows you that it has turned around. This really is helpful so that you can cancel out all the noise. I kind of consider this to be noise reduction for trading. It ignores all those little wiggles, keeps you in the right direction. It also is really helpful for identifying the key pivot points where the market is giving up and turning around. And you can also see that this is a sell zone right up here. And so we can see that we're right back up there right now. And this makes the sell zones so much clearer and more obvious. Same thing with the buy zones. They're very, very clear, very, very obvious. So these are the things that can really be just so helpful for beginners. But once you've been trading for a few months, the advanced techniques that we use here are what can really take you from, say, a high 5-figure or maybe even low 6-figure trader up to a high 6-figure trader. Regardless of your trading strategy, this is an absolute must have. It's something that we use in addition to our regular candlestick charts because they both give us really essential information. Now, ultimately, the key to success in trading is putting all of this together. All of these methods that I've shown you here, you have to be able to put them all together at the same time and use them together. And a great example of somebody who took the time to learn how to do that is one of our students, Twee. I had the pleasure of getting to teach Twee. She was brand new to trading, knew nothing about what she was doing. She had lost money in the markets before learning our techniques. She just sort of jumped in and bought stocks that people were talking about or whatever, but had no idea what she was doing. And after dedicating herself for weeks of studying our material, studying our techniques, and practicing, within 6 months, she was able to make $58,000 in profits just from utilizing these techniques and putting them all together. So it's so important if you're going to learn to trade, you need to learn from someone who's been doing it profitably for a long time. And one of the best things about the fact that we had an in-person school was that it really helped us to make the absolute best online program that there was anywhere. We were able to get really immediate, instant feedback from our students on what did work for them, what didn't work for them, and all the relationships that we developed really made sure that we put all the students' success above everything. So this is a picture of our very first class. And we only had 5 students that very first time. It's a really small kind of ragtag group of people with a really wide variety of backgrounds and experience levels, from absolute beginner who knew nothing to somebody who'd been trading for over 10 years. And everybody just came away getting so much out of it. We knew that we were really onto something. And within a few months' time, we were up to just some huge class sizes with just incredible groups of people. Again, from every type of background imaginable, from all over the country and just from all over the world even. And it was just an amazing experience to get to work with all these people firsthand and really teach them these techniques that we now have taken and turned into our Expert Trader online program. It's the absolute best, most polished, most perfected version of all of the material that we've been teaching our students, and is going to really help you to take your trading to a whole different place where you may never have thought was even possible. Now, when you put all these strategies together, it actually is possible to trade with a 65 to 70% accuracy rate. No matter what anyone tells you, that is possible. Where traders fail is usually in their personal psychology. And a big reason for that is because everyone's got different financial comfort zones. Some people are comfortable trading $1,000 positions. Some people are comfortable with up to 10,000. Some people are comfortable with up to 1 million. It just depends on who you are and where your own psychology is dialed into. This is one of the reasons why we cover psychology extensively within the course, in order to get your personal trader psychology to where it needs to be to have success in the markets. Now, risk management is absolutely critical to trading. Before coming to us, Many of our students had lost tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in the market. The fact, though, is if you're trading correctly, you really should never be taking those kinds of big losses. Now, in the beginning, you will lose money. It's just that simple. But you have two choices. You can either do it with fake money or you can use real money. Now, you could be really stubborn, like I was, and send your account down to $0. I blew out my first $10,000 account in a couple of years. Or you can learn from those mistakes and you can prove that you have 3 weeks of profitability in a trading simulator before you ever touch real money. Now, we have partnered with both TradeStation and TD Ameritrade to give you unrestricted use of their trading simulators and reduced commissions once you actually do start trading real money. Now, it's so important to practice with the trading simulators because think about it. When you're learning to drive, don't you practice, say, in a parking lot first? Or if you were learning to scuba dive, don't you go into a practice pool first? Or when you're giving a big speech, don't you practice in the bathroom first? So why wouldn't you do the same thing with trading? It lets you learn trading totally risk-free. And one of our students, Hung, is a great example of someone who did exactly this. Now, Hung is a stay-at-home mom. She is not a financial background person, an engineer or anything like that. She didn't have any kind of really advanced background that a lot of people would think is necessary for trading. She is a stay-at-home mom and just wanted to be able to make a little extra money in her free time in between handling her kids and her other household duties. And so she took our course. I had the pleasure of getting to teach her. And she started in the simulator. She spent 3 months on the simulator. It took her 3 months before she proved that she was consistent and she was really good about staying on the simulator till she did that. Then she went to real money and started making an average of around $200 per day consistently now, which has worked out really great for her. So if you're still with us at this point, thank you so much for your time. I am going to hand it back over to Tim now, who will be able to tell you all about what your next steps are in working with us. Tim, it's all yours.
Thanks, Jonathan. Now, at this point, you have 3 options. First is you can stay exactly where you are in your comfort zone and not take any action to improve your life. 2, you can continue to lone wolf it, keep on watching YouTube videos, trying to piece it together, reading more books, and spend, unfortunately, many years like my dad did to try to figure it out himself. Or you can learn from people who have mastered it and accelerate your path to profitability. And here's how we're going to shortcut your trading journey over the next 6 weeks. In the first 2 weeks, we'll build you a solid trading foundation. So if you have absolutely no idea what to do, have never heard of stock before, don't worry. In weeks 3 and 4, this is where we show you our core strategy and advanced strategy. Now, this is basically 80% of our program. This is where you're going to get the most benefit because these are things that you can't really find in many places out there. We cover all of our strategies step by step, how to analyze our methods based on Wall Street. After that, we dive into week 5. And in here, we talk about day trading, swing trading, and long-term investing. So whether or not you want to do it full-time each day, or you have a full-time job, but you want to do it part-time every week, just a few hours, you can also do that. Or for long-term, if you just want to manage your 401k and IRA and not rely on a financial advisor, we show you how to adjust the strategies for all 3 of those things. Finally, in week 6, we show you how to build bulletproof psychology by rewiring your mind. And that's going to allow you to go from a few $100s a day to a few $1,000s per day. And after you spend 6 weeks going through our online program, then you automatically move into our post-course program. And in here, you're going to be able to speak live with Tom every single morning as he breaks down the markets for you every single day. Here's an example of what our live trading room looks like. Here, he'll break down the exact trading strategies that we use day in and day out to make consistent money. And we show you how these look on real live charts every single day. You'll also get access to our private student Facebook group. And in here, you can get a lot of your questions answered. So whether or not you have questions about the program or you want to make sure you did your analysis right on different stocks or charts, when you post in here, either me or our instructors will respond back to you and make sure you get your answers. We also have a live Q&A call room. If you prefer to actually speak to someone live, then twice a week, either me or our instructors will host a live Q&A call where you can log in and actually speak to someone live and get any questions that you have answered. Now, one thing I want to reiterate is that if you aren't willing to spend 3 full months learning this program, it's not for you. There's a lot of people out there who say you can learn this overnight and all that. And we just want to be completely transparent with you. This takes work. It takes practice. It's very doable by many students, but you just have to be willing to commit to learning. You probably won't make millions your first year like all of these other people are telling you. A six-figure income is more realistic for the first few years until you've had enough exposure and practice in the markets. After that, then you can start aiming for the seven-figure range. But we're not the types to flash our Lamborghinis or mansion and try and sell you some get rich quick, do anything you want type of lifestyle. We want to be completely transparent with you since we've done it. We've been through all the hard work and we want to make sure that you get to your goals correctly, but that you're in it for the right reasons. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with having Ferraris or mansions and all of that, but you're going to get there by putting in time and effort to learning trading correctly. And then those are the rewards that come after.
Right? Like Janoy here is a perfect example of someone who is willing to put in the work. Before coming to us, he worked 3 jobs in the past 8 years. And since he was getting older, his body really needed a rest. He had already tried trading for 2 years with limited success and was really looking for a strategy that could actually bring him results. We noticed right away that he was one of our most determined students. He came in with a lot of hard work and passion, and it's because of that he was able to turn $3,500 into $18,000 his first month. And in his second month, he grew his profits to $27,000. And then we have Ty here, who joined on not too much before we saw the markets tank from Corona. She's a software engineer with no past education in the stock market whatsoever. She took the leap to become an active trader, learn to day trade and swing trade the markets, and from late February to April 8th of this year, a little less than 2 months, Ty managed to make a solid $80,493. And as you can see from her message and screenshot that she sent us, let me emphasize that these were during the same couple of months that the markets were getting pummeled from the coronavirus. And while most people were getting crushed, Ty was over here raking in some pretty big profits. Or we have Edith here, a customer support specialist who we met in December of 2019. One of her concerns was job security, and given everything that's going on, that's totally fair. And so she decided to try out our program to specifically learn about swing trading. And she still wanted the bulk of her day to do her usual routines, but she wanted to dedicate just a few hours here and there to actively invest in the markets. And she said at first she had the fear that it was too good to be true when she joined. But looking back, it was the best decision that she's made. And she's told us this herself, as you can see here in the screenshot. And that's not surprising, seeing that a few lines below, she let us know that she's made over $167,000 swing trading the markets. That's more than most people make in 2 or 3 years of salary. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what this program could do for you. But right now, to be honest, we're constrained in manpower, and we're pretty picky with who we want to train in our program.
Spots are limited. My dad and I can only work with so many people, and we'd rather work with 5 people who are extremely dedicated than 100 people who are wishy-washy. So if this sounds like you're extremely motivated and dedicated, and you want to make a change for your financial future, then we'll get on the phone with you, and within 45 minutes, we'll know if you have what it takes to make a 6-figure trading income. Either me or a member of our team will speak to you on the phone and talk to you about what our program entails and how we can help you. And if you're a good fit and you have the skills required to become successful at trading, we would love for you to join the program.
And the link to sign up for a call is go.stocknavigators.com/et-survey-page. It's right here on your screen, so you can screenshot it, or if you're on your desktop, it should be on your right sidebar inside of the chat. If you're on mobile, it should be on the bottom of your phone inside of the chat. And before you can sign up for a call with us, this link will bring you to a quick survey. It's only about 10 quick questions, and after that, it will take you to a page where you can schedule your call. Now, if you don't take the time to fill out the survey, we can't take your call because it shows us that you're not serious. So really just spend a quick few minutes to fill out the 10-question survey, and after that, it will take you directly to the call page. And if you want to hit the 6-figure mark and possibly the 7-figure mark in the next 3 to 5 years, then we can definitely help you get there. What we're offering you is a shortcut to this entire process. We're looking for people who are willing to work hard and are committed. So again, this is not some get-rich-quick thing. It requires hard work. And if you're serious and you're ready to learn a new skill today, then please click the link either to the right of the screen or the bottom of your screen. And if for some reason you don't see that, then the link is here. It's go.stocknavigators.com/et-survey-page. We only have spots open for calls for the next 4 days, and our spots fill up pretty quickly. So if you're interested, then please apply right now at this moment. This link will take you to the survey page, and again, make sure you fill out that and fill it out, and then it will take you to the scheduling page where you can pick a time for your call.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
So with that being said, thank you so much for joining us today.
And for those of
I
you
hope
that
you
are
guys
looking
got
to
a
take
lot
it
of
one step
value from the
further,
webinar.
I hope to see you on a
And for those of you that are looking to take it one step further, I hope to see you on a call.